1st, 2018. And the artist formerly known as Kanye West is about to change the way many of his fans look at him and potentially alter the course of his career forever. The entirety of Ye's Gemini was shown on that day specifically. In the morning, Ye released an interview onto his YouTube page with Charlemagne the God, where he seemed level-headed, extremely in tune, and gave some great insights. This is one of my favorite moments from that interview.
You know, the concept of luxury, I'm changing the idea of luxury. I think luxury is space. I think luxury is time is a luxury. Friends are a luxury. Getting your vision out is a luxury.
That's the Ye everybody fell in love with, though.
I was taken back to the moments that I fell in love with Kanye and all the interviews where he would speak about his, passion for creating, or, why he's the espresso in the morning for your self-confidence. And that's kind of why he speaks the way he does. So it was this moment that I was really like, okay, we got Kanye. He's back. He's ready to kind of give his next message, his next creative offering into the world. And then I want to say like 2 hours later, that same day, TMZ drops this.
You hear about slavery for 400 years? For 400 years? That sounds like a choice.
I actually don't think you're thinking anything. I think what you're doing right now is actually the absence of thought. And the reason why I feel like that, because Kanye, you're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to believe whatever you want. But there is fact and real world, real life consequence behind everything that you just said.
Now, shout out to Van Lathan, who had a great reply there. And so intriguing looking back on it. How did we end up here? What got us to this moment? Because there's a lot that people haven't talked about. And when I noticed something in a Joe Rogan interview, I wanted to tie it in and then look at this interview and this moment with new eyes, with a new light, because I think it's really interesting. But this video isn't actually about that day. It's about the day before this happened and how a couple of conversations with one man may have sparked this outburst accidentally. My name is Jeremy Hecht. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. Welcome if you're new here. I cover rap relationships. I cover lyric breakdowns. I cover what I think is interesting. That could be anything from spirituality to history to God. I don't want to box myself in with this channel, but specifically, this video is about one of the biggest artists in the world, and I do want to give a couple of caveats before we start. Number one, I am not going to be touching the topic of what Kanye speaks about on that TMZ floor. Van Lathan has done a great job of educating around it, of rebuttaling it live in real time, and there has been countless breakdowns that have gone up on YouTube and elsewhere. I personally, as a white Canadian, do not need to be the person to dive into the topic of Black American slavery, especially coming off of a video where a lot of you really appreciated my take on the fact that not everything is for me, as somebody white and from Canada on the outside of this culture looking in. Number two, I will say that I'm a Kanye West superfan. I no longer identify as a stan because of this moment right here. This whole era of Kanye really made me less of a stan. I, at that point, was kind of aimlessly always defending Kanye to friends, family, and otherwise, haters alike. Whoever came at Kanye, I had a rebuttal for. I truly believed that Kanye was this person who was for the people. I believe that Kanye was someone who always fought for injustice, who was really representing something beyond himself. And it was in this moment that I kind of questioned a lot of my beliefs about Kanye and what he really stood for. And I think in this moment, there's a lot of complexities that go into it. There's the mental health aspect. He mentions being on pills and off pills and really not being fully lucid or fully present because of the fact that he was just in the hospital. He was on pills, off pills. I don't necessarily have a take in this video about mental health as well. Even though it's at the core of the issue, that's not what I'm going to personally be speaking about in this video. But all that to say, I'm still a Kanye West super fan, so I will always have bias towards him based on what he did for my life musically, artistically, creatively, and how much he's inspired me over the course of my life. The other thing I want to say is this is not not going to be a political video either. I don't want to make this about Trump. I don't want to make this about Kamala. I don't want to make this about the upcoming election. I'm not diving into politics here. I just am diving into the moment. So let's dive into it. The reason why I wanted to make this video and the reason why it sparked my curiosity was I happened to be watching a Joe Rogan interview, and a story about this Kanye experience came up that I feel like has not really resonated or made its way into mainstream discussion. And I think it explains that day in a lot more detail than we've really seen anyone else speak about. And while this probably pissed off a lot of Kanye fans, everyone remembers where they were when they saw this video. So before we get into it, leave in the comments where you were specifically and what your first thought was when you saw Kanye with the red MAGA hat in TMZ saying the things he said that day. This is Eric Weinstein. Now, if you're in the JRE, the Joe Rogan universe, you definitely know about Eric Weinstein. But if you're watching this from the hip hop world, you may have absolutely no clue who this is. So depending on how you found this video or what your entry point was for today, you may know more or less. So just brief overview. Eric, in my opinion, is one of the most intelligent sounding people I've ever come across on the internet. Now, I'm not saying he's one of the smartest people. I don't know that to be a fact. All I'm saying is when he speaks, he's incredibly intellectually sounding. He speaks of things that I have no idea what he's talking about. You also might recognize him from when he was speaking with Terrence Howard on one of the recent Joe Rogan episodes after Terrence Howard's theory went viral, which is for a whole nother video. But shout out to Terrence Howard. I found that very interesting. And personally, there's been things that Eric has said that I've seen that I've been extremely intrigued by. He's said things, even the segment right after this, he speaks about, how most stories that we see on camera in film have the same portal that everyone goes through, where, the everyday average person finds a portal into a new world. They go into that realm, they take information, they take learnings, and they come back to this regular life to use those learnings, whether that be Harry Potter or Narnia or Alice in Wonderland or The Wizard of Oz. So he had a podcast called The Portal that had some really interesting stuff on there as well. But in terms of this conversation, Eric Weinstein, who is a physicist, who does lectures, who is an intellectual, and he also worked for a very successful company, managing director at Thiel Capital. So he's a PhD in mathematical physics from Harvard University, and he was also a part of what was called the intellectual dark web. Now, some of you guys might remember this, but this was a time when, some of these voices were really starting to bubble online, and this was before podcasting was necessarily as big as it is today. But you had people like Joe Rogan on here, you had people like Sam Harris, Brett Weinstein, Eric Weinstein. There was people who no longer associate with each other on this list, and all of them have had controversial takes. I think Ben Shapiro was on there too at some point. They were all kind of part of this collective that had controversial takes or were non-mainstream media, and I think Jordan Peterson was involved in there, and kind of band together, and they were framed as kind of the underground voices. Okay, so at this time specifically in 2018, I believe that was right around the time that this was coined. I think the New York Times article came out around that, May 10th, 2018. So this was right around the time that these people were bubbling up. So the New York Times article came out on May 10th, right? So they must have done that interview, and the term was probably coined around that time because Kanye's TMZ interview happened on May 1st. And this is what he said on an episode on July 3rd, 2019, okay?
I spent 2 days with him, and I found...
This is him speaking about Kanye. When he asked Joe about if Joe was going to interview Kanye, this is what Eric said.
That when he's in a relaxed frame. Mm-hmm. His flow state is just, it's beautiful.
Well, I enjoyed talking to him. I talked to him on the phone. I really enjoyed our conversation. We had a nice conversation. I think he's a very good dude.
Very sensitive human being.
Yeah, very cool guy.
He and I were walking down the road, and there was this crip alert, which is
Crips?
like the
Crips
Crips from Long Beach said, Kanye, you better stay in Calabasas. It was like,
So this was when, I don't know if you guys remember, this was around the time that he had first put on the MAGA hat. And so rapper urges Crip gang members to F up Kanye. An LA rapper with ties to Snoop has issued a Crip alert. That's disrespectful to do that to Daz. He's not just a rapper tied to Snoop. Come on, give Daz some credit. But national alert, all the Crips out there, y'all F Kanye up, he said in since deleted clip referring to the infamous street gang. Before, better not ever see you in concert, the rapper added, better not ever see you around the LBC, better not ever see you around California. There was a real alert, so obviously they're not touching Calabasas where Kanye, lives, but
a little bit of a tense situation. So we're walking along the road, and like people were hanging out of the windows of their car, yelling, Kanye, and I think it was just like positive, like wanting to make contact, but it was very disconcerting. And this guy was preternaturally calm. He was just like, I was nervous.
How long ago was this?
This was, you remember when he went on TMZ?
Well, were you talking a year or less?
Yeah, I think it was probably a year ago.
He said, remember when he went on TMZ? So this is the first time he mentioned it. And I remember thinking, this was July 2019, so a year after the Kanye TMZ incident. I remember thinking, why is he with Kanye around the TMZ incident? This is very interesting to me. So then when he went back, and keep in mind, this is around the time that Ye was doing, the anti-Semitic rants, and he had the Drink Champs interview, and he was just causing chaos with everything that he was saying at this point in time. And it was right after Dave Chappelle did his SNL monologue. And so Eric was giving his take on Ye, especially being a Jewish person, okay? So Eric talks about his experience with Kanye. And when he says, let me explain what happened at TMZ or what's happening with Kanye, my ears perked up. And for some reason, I don't think that many people clocked this.
When I saw Chappelle take that shot on behalf of Kanye, I have to take a Kanye detour.
Okay.
People do not understand what happened with Kanye. And I want to talk about this from a Jewish perspective. Kanye, in 2018, for some reason, Candace Owens, of all people, was like my fan. And she called me up. She said, I'm meeting with Kanye, which is my dream. I want you to be there.
So, real quick, before I get back into Eric, I want to take a quick Candace Owens detour, okay? Because you have to understand why Candace Owens was even at the TMZ interview. She was his mouthpiece at that time, or, in the same way that we currently have people speaking on behalf of rappers because they don't really have interviews that they do. You have an Academics, or you have a Maul speaking on behalf of Drake. And even, on our podcast, DJ Head showed me a text from Kendrick where he said that, Head sometimes has to be the person to step in and kill some of the misinformation that goes on online. In that same format, I think the reverse was happening, where Kanye was kind of becoming the mouthpiece for a lot of Candace Owens' ideas. And he later even ended up denouncing it and saying he felt like he was being used. So Kanye kind of admitted, this is Kit Cudi back in the building. A lot of you guys liked Kit in our last video. I feel like everyone knows who Candace Owens is. April 21st, 2018. So Kanye tweets, I love the way Candace Owens thinks. Now this sparks a relationship to the point where they're hanging out together. They are speaking. They're having conversations. Okay. Now Candace Owens is talking to Kanye and giving him what I want to say is political insight. Now, this is, you got to remember, You got to remember where Kanye's coming from. Kanye West is someone who said out loud multiple times that he does not read and that he simply gets his opinions and his thoughts from having real life conversations with people. So when you see Kanye say something, you have to ask, who is he around that gave him that idea? Now, I'm not saying Kanye can't think for himself or that he can't speak for himself or that he hasn't had incredible ideas. I definitely think Kanye is a genius. But what I will say is you can tell when he's around someone because he says a lot of their ideas, okay? And he had a lot of the same ideas being said out loud that Candace Owens had at that time. So they're hanging out. Let's go back to Eric and what he said here, okay?
What? All right, I show up. Kanye is the most kind, creative, mentally ill, wonderful, generous person you could imagine.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay? Kanye is like, can you come over tomorrow? Can you come out to Calabasas? We're like hanging out, me and Kanye, as if this makes any effing sense. By the way, he's got an NDA that is the most ghetto lawyer thing I've ever seen. It's like, if you say anything about this meeting, we'll take your child, we'll take your left testicle, you will have nothing. I'm like, I am not signing this. Well, you're not meeting Kanye. It's like, fuck.
I don't know about calling it ghetto, by the way. I'm just saying, Eric. I don't know what you meant by that, but I'm, ascribing that word to the black guy you're talking about. Doesn't sound great, but listen, we'll keep it going. We'll keep it going. Let's just listen to what he has to say.
Fine, it's only Calabasas. I'll take an Uber home. F you. Like, they call up Kanye. Like, don't make him sign it. Just come through. So I come through.
So funny.
And I'm like hanging out with Kanye, like geek and the rap god, and like he's got this videographer who's like filming everything, and I'm like, I cannot deal with this person.
Which makes sense. I mean, even we saw the Genius documentary, but I've heard that Kanye films everything and records all his calls and like everything for his life documentary, which I'm sure he'll make another one, is going to be there on record, on video.
And send him away. So he sends him away. And Kanye and I have this heart to heart. And let me tell you something. This is uncomfortable to say. I cannot imagine a kinder, more creative, more gentle, more loving, more inclusive person. He invites me on the spot to a listening party for his new tracks. And I say, I have to get home to Pia and the kids. He's like, well, you don't understand. It's Kanye's album. I'm dropping it. And it's like, I don't care. It's my wife and my kids. I got to get home. So he's like, okay, come to Wyoming. So he's inviting me to Wyoming with him. I'm like, dude, I'm a math person. Cut it out. He's like, well, you have to come to Wyoming. All right. We start talking about the concept of slavery in Jewish and black tradition. Now, part of the reason that Jews and...
Now, you see where I'm going with this, okay? And you see where he's going with this. The main comment that got Kanye in trouble that day was his comment. You remember it. Slavery was a choice. 400 years of slavery. That sounds like a choice to me, okay?
For 400 years, that sounds like a choice.
Now, first of all, me being Jewish, I would never compare a Bible story of the Jews being enslaved for Passover in Egypt, the Moses let my people go moment. I would never compare that to the Black American slavery experience. First of all, one is much more recent and one is documented. The other, not saying it's not true, but the other is a biblical story, I would never compare those two things. So to even have this conversation to me is a little out of pocket. But just listen to what he says about his conversation with Kanye, and then we're going to play Kanye's actual outburst at TMZ, and you'll see what happened here.
Blacks have very high tension is because we have very similar experiences. We both have a really deep relationship to slavery. In our case, it's Passover. In their case, it's the history we all know. And I say to Kanye, there are three levels of slavery in Jewish thought. There's chattel slavery, where we're actually enslaved. Then there's cultural slavery, where we're a diaspora community in other people's lands. And then there's self-slavery, where we can't get past ourselves. And Kanye, we're grooving all this stuff, having this heart to heart. We're walking around Calabasas.
Okay, now just pause for a second. Now, do you see what he did there? He said there's self-slavery where it's in your mind, okay? Now, Kanye used the vocalization of slavery being a choice. Okay, he said it was a mental slavery that people continued. He completely spiraled into this, you choose your own reality, you create your own reality, which I do believe is true in manifestation, but not when people are holding you against your will and shipping you to a new place and forcing you to work under their control. So that aside, like I said, I don't want to get too deep into that. But let's hear what he says, because the rest of it is very interesting.
And people are yelling out of car windows like, Kanye, we love you. And like every time they do it, I remember that there's a Crip alert. The Crips have issued an alert from Long Beach that if Kanye strays out of Calabasas, he's to be taken.
This is what he said on the last podcast too.
Now.
What?
So, yeah.
But this is 2022. The first podcast was 2019. I like how Joe now is questioning it, and you just saw him not really question it last time.
When was this?
I don't know. Look up Crip alert and Kanye.
Jesus
2018.
Christ.
Okay. So Kanye's like, okay, there are 3 levels. We're reviving, blah, blah, blah. And I get this call from Kanye the next day because I'm not guessing Crip alert for Kanye words. Like, I'm just thinking I'm going to be killed in a drive-by shooting because I can't get home to my wife because I'm hanging out with Kanye. Nothing makes sense in the world.
Wow.
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Now, I get this call from Kanye. He's like, oh, Eric, I can't tell you how amazing this all is. I was just at TMZ.
Which is, so literally the day before, because he said the next day, the day before, he was having this conversation with Kanye about slavery and the 3 levels of slavery and how there's a level that involves mental choice. Now, I'm not super religious or anything. I don't really know the history of what he was referring to, but just note that, okay?
And I was explaining the theory about slavery and how this whole thing works and Jews and Passover, and I was explaining how much I love Hitler. I went, what? Did you...
Now, this is kind of the craziest part of the story because you really get the behind the scenes. So there was that rumor that Kanye has had an obsession with Hitler for a very long time, much prior to him mentioning it on Alex Jones. And a lot of people didn't believe it. A lot of people said it was a smear campaign. But what's happening here is Ye did actually say that at TMZ. It was confirmed by Van. It was confirmed by other people. He did say that at TMZ, and they cut it out of the tape. And what Eric is going to explain is Kanye was kind of on this love train, right? He was, let's spread love. Let's, love everyone, which I think he continued to be on, to some degree. I think that was his messaging. But he was saying, I love everyone. I love Hitler, right? Okay. Does not make that an okay statement to say out loud, especially not to TMZ when you know what they could do with that information. I don't know why you would do that, but continue.
I was explaining how much I love Hitler. It's like, I missed a meeting, a memo, something. And I realized, okay, Kanye is focused on this spiritual Sunday thing. And I realized what this is Jesus. Jesus loves everybody. No matter how horrible you are, Jesus loves you. Okay? And Kanye is thinking, what would Jesus do? And I'm realizing, I'm thinking at top speed. He's talking about Hitler at TMZ, whatever. I said, Kanye, I want you to listen to me. He's like, yeah. I said, I want you to run to TMZ. They don't want to destroy you, I guarantee it, because you're a long-term property that matters. And there's no reason that they would want to destroy you. And I want you to beg them not to release what you said. Don't question me. Just do it. So he runs to TMZ, and they don't release this thing. And I guarantee you that they have the videotape.
Yes, he said he loved Nazis while he was... Now, here's the thing. He said, I love Hitler, I love Nazis while he was there at TMZ. It was either Hitler and Nazis or just Hitler or just Nazis.
I would love to ask Van, who is so critical of so many people, why he goes on Vlad TV. Because I know that there are a lot of people who have issues with Vlad, and it's interesting that Van goes there. But that is for another video. Let's keep going. I want to take a look at the actual TMZ video, and you'll see kind of... So where Eric kind of comes into this accidentally, in my opinion. I don't think he was manipulating Kanye into saying these things. I think that they were probably having a genuine conversation. And you'll see Kanye use that thought process and kind of go off the rails with it.
I'm in the hospital, right? I'm taking hey, everyone listen to this, please. 2 days before I was in the hospital, I was on opioids. I was addicted to opioids. I had plastic surgery because I was trying to look good for y'all. I got liposuction because I didn't want y'all to call me fat like y'all called Rob at the wedding and made him fly home before me and Kim got married. I didn't want y'all to call me fat, so I got liposuction, right? And they gave me opioids, right? And I started taking 2 of them and then driving to work on the opioids, right? Then my boy, and I'd always ask my boy.
Also, it's wild looking back that, you know, the part that everyone took was the slavery as a choice, understandably. But there's also Kanye admitting to drug addiction here and admitting to being addicted to pills, which I didn't really hear talked about at that time. And maybe that's just what I was looking at, but I didn't see that as a big topic of conversation.
You know, to hand me if it's, you know, we on tour, give me some weed, blah, blah, blah. So he had to go give me the opioids. And there was talks amongst my camp, like, Ye's popping pills, right? So when he handed this to me, he said, you know this is used to kill genius, right? So I didn't take it. 2 days later, I'm in the hospital. I was taking 2 pills a day at that time. When I left the hospital, how many pills you think I was given? 7. I went from taking 2 pills to taking 7. So the reason why I denounced, why I dropped those tweets and everything, because I was drugged the fuck out, bro. And I'm not drugged out. These pills that they want me to take 3 of a day, I take 1 a week, maybe 2 a week.
So you could tell, like, he's fluctuating off of being addicted to drugs, going cold turkey, and now kind of sporadically taking these pills. I'm not saying what's right or wrong here. I'm just saying there's a lot going on.
Y'all had me scared of myself, of my vision. So I took some pills so I wouldn't go to the hospital and prove everyone right.
The other thing I thought was interesting is there was a picture that Kanye posted or a video where he was freestyling at the office, I believe, and there was a picture and a screenshot, and it was Jordan Peterson lectures on the back of the screen, and he's another person who is kind of in that intellectual dark web. I actually was reading Jordan Peterson's book at that time. I remember, you know, I really disagree with a lot of the things that he says now, but at the time I really did like his perspective, and I still think his perspective is valuable. But the cult guru whose millions of male followers are called lobsters and include Kanye West, which is a crazy headline, by the way. But Kanye had admitted to, you know, being a Jordan Peterson fan, and there was also this tweet, shout out to Passion of the Weiss, Jeff Weiss. Kanye's about to lock every music journalist in a Wyoming barn without their phones and force them to watch an infinity loop of Jordan Peterson lecturing them about how bad posture causes syphilis. Jordan Peterson's #1 rule in the Rules to Life book is keep your back straight, or keep your posture good, or something like that. And around this time, he was also, you know, he was repping the MAGA hat with the Kaepernick hoodie. He had this freestyle, I remember.
It's always a lituation when I'm involved. It's always a lituation when I'm involved. See, I say what they say when the mic is off. Parents are the
I think this is where the Jordan Peterson
confidence.
stuff was.
Teach white dominance. Question your common sense. See, I've been washed in tradition and I'm a rinse. Hopped off the I'm a star and made I'm a god. It's always a lituation when I'm involved. See, I say what they say when the mic is off. Yo, Harvey, that's...
He said Harvey, so I guess he's with Harvey from TMZ. I don't know if this is at TMZ, but that was kind of a dope freestyle, I thought. But this one is the one where I was like, what is happening here? Now, if you know anything about this guy on the left, okay, we could make a whole video, okay, and Lior, okay, which is interesting. Kanye was very critical of, you know, Jewish heads in the music industry. And like I said, I am someone who is Jewish in the music industry, okay? So I feel like I have a unique perspective here. But objectively, there are a lot of Jewish people who have top roles in the music industry, and there are a lot of Jewish people who have done bad things within the music industry. And specifically, I'm sure Kanye experienced that. Now, do I think it's right for him to generalize and say all Jews? Never. I don't think it's ever okay to say all any people. But I kind of saw where Kanye was coming from in terms of what would have sparked him to say that. Now, he completely went on to say anti-Semitic things and say things that I completely disagreed with. And I thought that he was kind of selfish in a lot of his takes because it was hurting people and it was affecting people negatively versus just calling the people by name that affected him. All that being said, Lucian Grange is one of the most powerful people in music, and he took this picture with Lior and Lucian in the red hat very shortly after, he pissed a lot of people off. So this was very interesting because I don't think a lot of people clocked that, and I didn't see this until I was re-going through this. But to have Lucian, who's Drake's boss, Kanye called Lucian Drake's rich baby daddy, okay? So there's something here that I don't know if that's for another video. I don't know if we even get into it. I know he's got a lot going on right now anyways when it comes to things to deal with. But anyways, all that to say, let's get back to TMZ.
We are drugged out. We are following other people's opinions. We are controlled by the media. And today it all changes. Feel free. People say feel free, but we don't even know how to feel free or think free. Say what you feel, positive or negative. I just got off the phone with J. Cole. He said, how you feel when they said the Crips is gonna kill you?
Back to the Crips. Also back to J. Cole, which is so interesting because I made a video on their relationship before, but they've had some kind of tension over the years. They were cool, then they weren't cool, then they were cool again. Come out already a couple years before that. And so I think Kanye said he felt like J. Cole hates him. And anyways, I got on the phone and Cole was asking him how he feels about the Crips wanting to kill him or putting an alert out on him.
I said, man, that was the headline. But when they said they wanted to beat me up, I said, that's great. They're my brothers. They love me. They don't want nothing to happen to Ye. They just want to beat some sense into me. I love Daz.
Funny.
I love the Crips. I love the Bloods. I love everyone. How many people...
Now, you see that cut right there when he says, I love everyone. I have a feeling that the next thing out of his mouth was, I love Hitler. That's how I feel. I think that that's what they cut. It's very interesting also that he didn't ask them to cut the slavery thing. If he went back and told them to cut it, I think he could have just said, cut everything. I would think so. And I don't know if he explained to Eric exactly what he said about anything else, and Eric's probably just like, the Hitler thing, like, take that out, because that's going to be the headline no matter what. But it's interesting that the cut was here, and it's interesting that he didn't ask to cut anything else.
Are feeling... How many people felt something that I said today? Raise a hand if you felt something that I said today.
Now, you see Candace Owens right here. Candace right here raising her hand, standing up right next to him.
Do you feel that I'm feeling, do you feel that I'm being free and I'm thinking free?
Yes.
I actually don't think you're thinking anything.
And then we go through, there's the whole van interaction back and forth. And I know you've seen all of this a million times. But I just wanted to show, I thought it was extremely interesting. A lot of the things he said, even a lot of the things he said that day,
now,
even right here,
and start loving each other now. When I say we have no enemies, we don't have enemies. Black people have a tendency to focus and march when a white person kills a black person or wears a hat. But when it's 700 kids being killed in Chicago, it's okay.
So you see him trying to kind of think about what he's saying and piece things together. And to me, this is exactly from the mouth of Candace Owens. Like, I'm pretty sure we've heard her say this exact thing to a T.
When it actually is in their face, they try to avoid it at all costs, especially when the perpetrator is a black person against another white person, which obviously happens more often in this country, given the fact that black Americans are the most murderous group in America by rate.
So, I mean, that was what she was saying there. And then we had
the message that is coming down the pipeline for black America. We need to celebrate criminals But when we talk about somebody with a life and a legacy of Queen Elizabeth, well, she's white, so we better see ourselves and perceive ourselves as the victims. Nobody cares about how Black American culture has been suffering. Nobody cares about the inner city communities that have been suffering under people like George Floyd, right? The criminality that is running rampant, people that are getting arrested and released back onto the streets. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to talk about it. In fact, if you do talk about it, you're a racist, right? That's it. You're a racist. If you talk about it and you're a Black person, okay, they won't call you racist. Instead, they will call you, as they have called me, a coon, an Uncle Tom, a traitor to my race, because I have the audacity to talk about the things that are harming us.
Clearly Kanye is hearing these things from somewhere, and I think he's hearing them from Candace Owens, and kind of because he's had these conversations, the slavery thing I think he got from Eric Weinstein, and this topic I think he got from Candace Owens.
It's okay for blacks to kill blacks, but if it's a white thing,
I don't think anybody's saying that's okay.
That's no, wait.
but there's been more focus and more marches
That is a lie.
about
don't
whites
believe that.
killing blacks than kids in Chicago killing each other.
That's a lie. There are Black people working there.
And you even see Candace Owens kind of runs over and is trying to, talk to Van here.
There are no marches.
Over 90% of black people do.
I won't make it. So it's kind of all madness, but it's really interesting to see all of this go down and just to see what really led to it and how these little moments, these conversations really could have changed Kanye's career forever had he either not had these conversations or had more people around him who weren't necessarily going to just let these sit with no disputing. Had he had a conversation with someone like Van before going on TMZ, we might have had a different result, and it'd be interesting. It'd be curious to see how this would have resulted.
I love Daz. I love the Crips. I love the Bloods. I love everyone.
So yeah, that's what really went down that day. That's how Eric Weinstein was involved, how Candace Owens was involved, and how ultimately it went down with Van Lathan that day. But looking back on it, that was such a historic pop culture moment that really, I think, lost a lot of Kanye fans, me included that day. Even before that, at the time when he was doing certain things, saying certain things, I kind of lost my stand-up. I'm still a Kanye fan to this day. I have my thoughts about certain things, and I have opinions about certain things, but I still do love his music. I still did listen to Vultures too, so it's not beyond me. And if you aren't a Kanye fan, I completely understand, and I get where you're coming from as well. But let me know in the comments what historical moment you want to revisit from a new lens, a new perspective. Let me know what you thought about all this. Did you know all this? Is there more information about this day? Do you not even care? Is it more just, he said what he said, we'll leave it at that. Let's not analyze it at all. And what do you feel about Kanye today? I would love to know. There's a lot here. And let me know what you want me to cover next. Thank you so much for all the subscriptions. I think we're at 15,000, close to it, or 14,000 subscribers, about 2,000 subscribers in the last 21 days or something like that. So thank you so much, genuinely, to every single person who subscribes to this channel. I'm currently not making any money off this channel, so this is just building my audience and, building my brand. So if you do support me and you support my channel, giving it a like, a comment, a share, that does wonders. And if you want to give me a follow on Instagram, it's at Jeremy_Hecht. Bigger picture episode every Saturday on Hip Hop DX, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. And once again, I will give a reminder every episode. I'm not high. I'm sober as a gopher. Okay. I used that last time. People liked it. And my ring light is very strong. So I love you. Kid Cudi loves you. And if nobody else has told you yet today, I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.